Chazak Baruch, Rabotai. Good evening. They say the Chazal that the custom is that between Chag Pesach and Chag Shavuot, we learn Pirkeh Avot. What's the reason why we learn Pirkeh Avot at this time of year? Because we want to improve our midot, the personality traits, character traits. And this is the time to do it because why is it so important to work on it now? There's two reasons we have. One reason is because we're getting ready for Matan Torah, to receive the Torah. So in order to receive the Torah, we have to be unified as one nation. We have to have a unity, so therefore we need to have a good midot and good character towards one another, good behavior towards one another. In this way, we can have peace amongst each other. And when we have peace and we are united, so then we're able to receive the Torah. As the Chazal say, right? That when they came to Har Sinai, the Jewish people, they were like, Am echad im lev echad. You know, they had one people with one heart. Everybody was together. They had togetherness. That's why they were able to receive the Torah. But if you're not together, and each one has factions, you know, this faction, that faction, you know, Zionist is not Zionist, you know, this one, everyone has a different shita, has a different approach to Judaism, you know. It's like we have like 20 different religions going on. That's not the way it's supposed to be, right? It's only one religion. So the Jewish people have one religion, and we should be united in order to serve Hashem. So therefore, we need to have one shita, one approach, and the only way to do that is to have unity, to treat each other with respect. Because otherwise, what happens is that people get splintered off and branched off to different groups, like we saw, you know, the last couple of generations, that the Jewish people got splintered off into factions and all kinds of things. This is the way it wasn't from the time of Beit Sheni, from the Second Temple already. It was like this. This is the reason why we have the Galut, we have the Churban Habayit, the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. Why was it destroyed? Because of Sinat Chinam. Sinat Chinam, what does that mean? That everybody has a different group, has different opinion, different faction, right? All kinds of things. They hate each other. One doesn't like each other. He doesn't like this rabbi. He doesn't like that rabbi. This rabbi doesn't like this rabbi. You know, everybody's splintered up into different groups. So therefore, the Chazal said, you know what? Learn Pirkeh Avot, because the Pirkeh Avot teaches you midot, teaches you how to behave properly, proper behavior, proper character traits, and therefore you can be united and receive the Torah together. That's one reason why we learn Pirkeh Avot during this time of year, to get ready for Matan Torah. The other reason, of course, is very famous, right? Everybody knows about this. Talmidim Rabbi Akiva, 24,000, they died. So it says in the Gemara, why? Because they didn't respect each other. That's what it says. They didn't treat each other with respect. You know, when there's no respect between Talmid Chachamim, that's not a good thing, you know? So that's why they died. Why? Let me ask you a question. Why should a person die because he doesn't give respect to his fellow rabbi? You know, one rabbi to the other rabbi. Why should he die? Is it chayav mitah? Does it say that you're chayav mitah? If a person doesn't give kavod to his fellow rabbi, one rabbi to the other,
I don't know.
Are they liable to death on that? So the truth is that sometimes you are, yes, you know, and I'll tell you why. Because it says, right, that right, whoever disgraces Talmidei Chachamim, they don't treat each other with respect, disgraces them, embarrasses them, you know, treats them with disrespect, especially in public, one to the other, they show each other disrespect. Even though they're both Talmidei Chachamim, they're both real Chachamim, but they don't respect each other, so sometimes a person is liable to death because he was mevazeh Talmid Chacham, he disgraces Talmid Chacham. It says in the Zohar Kadosh, whoever is mevazeh Talmid Chacham, chayav mitah, is liable to death. That's what it is. In Bemet, it's like that. You know, can you imagine? It also says, right, the same thing about the person who hates Talmid Chachamim, you know, doesn't like them. You know, soneh Talmid Chachamim, en lo chelek ha'haba. He doesn't have a portion of the world to come. A person who hates Talmid Chachamim. Also, same thing, right? So what happens? One leads to the other. You don't respect, you hate them, and then, you know, you also disgrace them. And you embarrass them. All kinds of things like this. You give them a lack of kavod, and this is what sometimes a person can become liable to death because of that. Can you imagine? By the way, you know, you should know something incredible about this issue, which is that if you look in the whole Talmud, or all the other Midrashim, and all the Zohar Kadosh and everything, the Kabbalah, you know what you don't find over there? You don't find one lesson taught in the name of who? Which rabbis? Talmidei Rabbi Akiva. There's no lesson in the Talmud taught in their name. Nothing. Zero. 24,000 of them were all Talmidei Chachamim, but nevertheless, not one thing that we learn from them in Torah. Nothing. Zero. There's nothing to learn from them. So what do you see from there? That a person doesn't behave properly, Talmid Chacham, behaves like a jerk, excuse my expression, right? There's nothing to learn from him. He doesn't have good behavior, doesn't have proper conduct. So therefore, there's nothing to learn from him. So therefore, in the Talmud, no, not one teaching, not one halakha, not one piece of Torah from Talmidei Rabbi Akiva. Zero. Nothing. Unbelievable, right? They're not worthy of that. That's the whole thing, you know? They don't have the zechut. That's the whole thing. So that's how important it is to have good midot, to have good character traits. This is exactly why we're learning the Pirkei Avot, right? To inculcate those good character traits into us. And this is a very, very important avodah, very important, very, very crucial, you know? And the truth is that a person has to be careful about the minhagim also of the Sfirat HaOmer. Now, not to shave, you know, especially get haircuts. And the reason is because when you do that, it causes harm in this issue, right? But a person who is not medaktek about that, is not makpid, and he doesn't care about that, and he does haircuts, and he does shaving, he doesn't care. So what happens is that also that harms his ability to be able to respect his fellow Jew, the fellow rabbis, you know, the rabbis. He can't respect them properly because he's not doing the minhagim of the Sfirat HaOmer to avoid shaving and getting haircuts. It's a very important thing. So if you want to be careful about that, make sure also you don't break this rule, right? And start doing shaving and haircuts on this time. Make sure you keep it. Okay, very good. You know, unfortunately I see, you know, a lot of people, some people in our community are not medaktek about this, you know. They're not medaktek about avoiding shaving and haircuts. For some reason they think, you know, I don't know, many Georgians were given a heter, you know. We have a heter to shave and do haircuts. We don't have any heter, I'm sorry. The Georgians, we don't have any heter for that. So that's why I tell you, right, that make sure you keep this, you know. One of our friends over here asked us, by the way, is there any heter, maybe, you know, some kind of a permission to shave on the Sfirat HaOmer? So the truth is that the Maran, Ovadia Hashem, he wrote in his book, Chazon Ovadia, that there is some kind of a heter. What does that mean? If it bothers you very much, you get itchy, you know, and you're scratching and itching all the time. So the rabbi says that what you can do is at least you can shave on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, which is coming up right now, very soon, a few days after Shabbat. Rosh Chodesh Iyar you can shave, and also you can shave on Erev Shabbat, every Friday, right? Erev Shabbat, for Dichvot Shabbat. So at least that you can do. If it bothers you very, very, very much, the rabbi gives us permission to do that.
Every Erev Shabbat?
Every Erev Shabbat, right, exactly, until Shavuot, exactly.
Wow,
so a person... Yeah, just for work you don't need to, but what we're saying, if it bothers you a lot. I mean, outside? Erev Shabbat, only if it bothers you a lot, you know, it itches you and something like that, right? It gives you a hard time. Some people can't deal with it with their skin, you know. There's a skin condition, very sensitive. So something like that, right? But also the truth is that if a person, you know, like I told people, if you have like a date or something, let's say you're going on a shidduch, you know, to meet some girl, get married, you know, you're allowed to get a shave and a haircut for that because it's a mitzvah, you know. You don't want to go in there looking like a jerk, you know, like unkempt person, you know, irresponsible person like that. You don't look nice like that, like a werewolf. So therefore, a person is allowed to also get a haircut for that reason as well. Or let's say he's meeting somebody very important, right? Some big chashuv person, you know, some big president or something, or you know. So in his kavod, he's allowed to shave, you know, to give kavod to yeah.
Can you buy new clothes during the?
Yeah, no problem. You can buy clothes. There's no prohibition about buying clothes. You can buy whatever you want. God bless you. Right? That's only during the other times of the year, right? Like for instance, Chol HaMoed and right the 9 days of Tisha B'Av before Tisha B'Av. There we don't buy new clothing. But at this time of year, there's no problem to buy new clothing whatsoever. Okay, so getting back to Pirkei Avot, as we said, right, that the first thing the Pirkei Avot teaches us is Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. You know? So the Pirkei Avot is like a Mishna, and it talks about, as we said, right, good character traits, good behavior, proper midot. So why does it start out with this, right? What's the connection between that and this? Why is it starting out with the issue of good midot, character traits, talking about where we got the Torah, and then in the Mesarah Yoshua, gave it to Yoshua, and then it says, right, Yoshua gave it to the Zkenim, the Zkenim gave it to the Nevi'im, that's what it says in the first Mishnah, and the Nevi'im gave it to Anshe Knesset HaGdolah. So this is talking about a long procession of right, generation to generation, passing over the Torah. So what does it have to do with Pirkei Avot, this lesson? Why doesn't it put it somewhere else? You know, maybe you should put it in right in the Masechet Brachot, you know, somewhere. I don't know, God, whatever, right? Yeah, we already say.
That's the key to the whole Torah. One of the key that the rabbis, Moshe Rabbeinu got the Torah from Har Sinai, from Hashem.
Yeah, it's true. But why put it over here in Pirkeh Avot? That's the question, right? So you know what the answer is, right? The answer is that the reason why we put it in Pirkeh Avot is because you should know that this also, regarding good behavior and good midot, this is also from Har Sinai. We got this also from Har Sinai. You shouldn't think it's just some good advice, some grandfathers gave you. These rabbis, these elderly rabbis. Yeah, my son, behave well, be a good boy and avoid trouble, It's like your grandfather, tells you some good advice. Dagariga, papam, babwam. Oh yeah, I gave you some good advice, very good. That's not what it's about. It's not just some good advice from some grandfather. This is also from Har Sinai. We also got this from Har Sinai. You should know that also Pirkei Avot is from Har Sinai. All the things about good midot, about good character. So what does that mean? That a person has to be very careful about that. As the Rambam says, right? You should know, by the way, the Rambam includes this in the Sefer HaMitzvot of the Rambam. He includes this as one of the mitzvot of the Torah, Taryag mitzvot. Which is it? To have good midot, to have good character traits. It's one of the Taryag mitzvot according to the Rambam. There's also machloket, by the way, about that, because Rabbi Chaim Vital, in his book Sharei Kedusha, he says that it's not really one of the Taryag mitzvot. It's a different thing altogether. It's like something else, but it's like the yesod, it's like the foundation of the mitzvot. But the Rambam says it's one of the Taryag mitzvot. So what does that mean? If a person behaves like a jerk, he doesn't have good midot, doesn't behave properly, just every time you see the guy, something is off, something is wrong, doesn't behave properly, doesn't have, he's always, too sad or too angry, or haughty, arrogant, all kinds of things like this. Doesn't behave like a human being, So the Rambam tells you, if you're not behaving like a human being, you're not behaving with good midot, you're also transgressing one of the mitzvot of the Torah, Taryag mitzvot, the Chavina mitzvot. That's one of the things, that's what the Rambam says. So a person has to be careful about that, And by the way, you should know, where do you really see a person, how he behaves? Not when he goes outside to parties, to bar mitzvah and brit milah over there. He behaves like a gentleman, nice suit, looks good, tie, everything looks nice. But when he goes home, he becomes a different person all of a sudden, starts yelling and screaming, and losing his temper, become Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. All of a sudden, became a different person. Why is that? Because he doesn't think that he has to treat his family with respect. He thinks that only outside, when he goes outside, he has to be respectable. But when he go home, be a monster, be a gangster, No, it's not like that. You have to be also nice at home. To your wife, to your children, you got to treat them well also, just like you treat everybody else. What do you think? What, you're patur? They think, some people think for some reason, that when it comes to my children, they think I can do whatever I want with them. I can yell at them, scream at them, put them down, insult them, hit them whenever I feel like it. I can do whatever I want with my children. They're mine, it's like my possession. Excuse me, what makes you think that they're yours? They belong to Hashem, So make sure you treat them properly. What does that mean? Make sure that you don't do too much hurt them and insult them, and that's going to drive them away from Hashem. Always talking badly to them, and yelling at them and screaming and this, being abusive. Then they're going to tell you when they grow up, what they're going to say, right? Abba, why were you so abusive to me? You're such an abusive person. You abused me. That's what he's going to tell you. Why were you so abusive to me? Why did you behave? God, you're my child. I can do whatever I want. That's not like that. Excuse me. Yeah.
You said one of the things, if a person is sad, how can you change to be happier and not sad all the time?
That's a good question, right? Yeah. So the truth is, that and simcha la Torah. When a person is learning Torah every day, he has simcha. That's what really gives a person simcha. If he's learning Torah. But if he's not learning Torah, he's watching TV all the time. Movies. All kinds of nonsense. Russian channel. This channel, that channel. He's gonna have simcha with that. He's gonna be always atzibani, always sad, always mad. Because that's not the proper thing to do. Watching these Russians, Russian channels, kinds of things.
Yeah,
what do you need to see these people for? Isn't it bad enough what you see on the news, what they do? You got to see them also on the TV and watch them. What kind of thing is that, right? You have to know who they are, these people, right? Look what they do in Ukraine. Look what they're doing over there. This is who you're watching. You should know, right? This is the people you're watching on TV. God bless them, yeah. Okay, whatever. I don't want to get into politics now. But that's the idea, right? So therefore, Rabbi, teaching you here one thing, that having good midot is also we got from Har Sinai. Don't forget that. A person has to know that having good midot is a very, very crucial thing. Okay, very good. So let's go on a little bit. So then we have the issue, right, that tells us, Mishna Bet, Pirkeh Avot tells us, on three things the world stands. You know, that the foundation of the world stands on three things. Ala Torah, ala Avodah, v'la Gemilut Chasadim. Right? That's what it tells you. These are foundations of the world. That everything stands on it. You know? So Torah, they say, right? In lo briti yomam v'layla, the Pasuk says, right? Chukot hashamayim haaretz v'lo samti. Right? So what does that mean? You know what the Pasuk is telling you? That if there wasn't people learning Torah all the time, the world would be destroyed, God forbid. The world couldn't exist without Torah. 1 minute without Torah, 1 second without Torah, the world is destroyed. So there has to be always people learning Torah. You know? So you wonder sometimes, why did Hashem make the world round? So we have when it's night over here, it's day over there. When it's day over here, it's night over here. Why is that? Because this way, all the time, people are learning Torah everywhere, somewhere in the world. If it's night over here, it's day over there. Every time somebody's learning Torah. So when somebody's learning Torah in the world, the world can survive. If there's no Torah, the world is going to be destroyed, God forbid. Can you imagine? The Torah is everything. Everything is the Torah. So this is the reason, right? That the Torah is one of the foundations. So what does that mean? If you see people, who are Talmidei Chachamim, or yeshivot, like Bachurei yeshivot, or Avrechim, they're learning in Kolel, learning in Yeshiva, you have to give them respect. You know why? Because those people that are learning all day Torah, the world stands on their merit. You should know, who are you talking to? That person who's learning Torah in Yeshiva, he's keeping the world alive. He's keeping the world standing. Otherwise, it wouldn't stand.
It is alright than just learning Torah and not doing nothing, for Parnasah.
Not only it's alright, we need it for the world, otherwise the world's going to be destroyed. You know what I mean? So you know what it is? I'll tell you something. It's a good question, what you're asking. So the ones who are learning Torah, sometimes they don't have Parnasah, so we have to help them. We have to help them to give them some money, some gifts. And this way we support them. This is the way it is. So why is this good? Because when you support him, it's like you also learn Torah. Whoever supports the Torah, it's like he's learning the Torah himself. So he's also getting zechut. You're also getting zechut for helping him. Also, So it says in the Talmud, in the Masechet Ta'anit, it says Rabbi Yochanan, only two people have halak in Olam Haba. Who has portion in the world to come? It says Rabbi Yochanan, only the one who learns Torah and the one who supports Torah. That's it. That's all there is. Nobody else. That's what Rabbi Yochanan says. Either you got to learn it or you got to support it. One or both. That's even better, right? If you're learning and supporting, it's even better. Do both, right? But you have to have some portion in the Torah. Either belimud. You know why? I'll tell you what's the reason why. The reason why they're learning all day Torah is because they want to become real Talmid Chacham. Somebody who's kanat levul. So what happens is that if they're not learning all day, they're not going to become real Talmid Chacham. It's going to be like palu, chatzi, nachewari. It's not going to become real Talmid Chacham. The only way to become real Talmid Chacham is to be learning all day. That's the only way to become Talmid Chacham. So you have to help these people. If you see people like this, but you should know, by the way, that Syrians, the Syrian Jews, they say, right, that all Broadway, if you go to Manhattan, all Broadway, all the buildings over there, they own all of them, almost all. So they have a lot of money, this community, right? It's very famous, everybody knows. God bless them. So, what's the secret, right? Why they have so much, who gives them so much parnasah? Why? Because they're supporting Torah, they're supporting yeshivot. They're giving money to yeshivot and Torah, giving money to Talmidei Chachamim. That's why Hashem gives them such big parnasah like this, big time, We're not talking about small time, $50,000 a year, $500,000 a year. We're talking about millions and billions. This is the way it is, A person who supports the Torah, he's also got a portion in it, So what happens, right? That anybody who supports the Torah becomes rich. That's what happens. Because the Torah makes people rich. That's the trick, So if you want to become rich, find the Talmid Chacham and support him. Eventually, you'll get rich. That's what happens. Right? Give him your maser, give him your maser money, tithe money, and you'll become rich. That's what it says in Talmud, Masechet Shabbat. So getting back to what we said, right? And then we have the avodah. So what is avodah? Avodah is the Beit HaMikdash. They're learning. They're serving, doing the korbanot over there. That's the avodah. So today we don't have Beit HaMikdash. We don't have avodah. So what do we do instead? Prayers, right? Tefillot. So what's our avodah? We come pray Shachrit, Mincha, Arvit, Korbanot, Psukei de Zimra, Ketoret. When we say these things ourselves, it's like we're bringing the Korbanot ourselves. Whoever reads it, it's like he brought the Korban himself. So this is the avodah of today, to make sure you read these things, and make sure also, if you can, you understand them also. Gaigos, If you understand what you're reading, it's much stronger, right? So try to learn the words also, to get a translation. Whatever it is, right? Russian, whatever it is, right? any language that you know, but English, whatever. Make sure you get that and you know what you're saying.
You know,
This is the avodah.
big machloket in Israel
Yeah.
between the people who's going in the army,
Yeah.
these people who's learning Torah, they're not doing army, they're not doing nothing, and it brings big hatredness in Israel.
Yeah, it's true what you're saying, but you know what it is, right? That
Religious and non.
yes, I know, but you know what it is. You should know, by the way, that the reason why there's this machloket is because they want to make machloket. They like that because they want to be separation between them. They shouldn't become religious people. They want to keep them not religious. That's what they want. Amalek lebiyarim. They hate Torah. They hate religion. They hate the mitzvot. They hate the rabbis. That's why they do these kinds of things over there. You should know, by the way, that I know. I live there. Myself. I live there. I'll explain to you. I live there myself. To be honest with you, they have enough soldiers in the army. They don't need people in the yeshiva to come to the army. They have enough. They don't want them. But that's the only reason why they do these games is to make them look bad. To God, shiatzpidon, gapazon. That's the whole thing. That's their idea. It's good. So a part of us will learn Torah. A part of us will do army. Everybody has their job. Tavis tafkidiaks. That's the best way. Not everybody can do one thing. You cannot be also in the army and also learn Torah and do everything one person. So some of us, we go to the army. Some of us, we do Torah. And today, together as a society, we're very strong. That's what it says in the Talmud. That David and Yoav, Yoav was the chief general of David. So what happened was that it says that David was able to learn Torah. You know why? Because Yoav was going and doing the war. So he was learning Torah. So that's how it is. Somebody has to go to the war. Somebody has to sit and learn Torah. And this way, everything goes together very well. But if there's only just army, no good, because we have no Torah. No Torah, there's no life. And also somebody has to go to the army also sometimes. That's also true.
These are 3 years.
Yeah, it's a long time. Yeah.
Israeli citizen obligated to go.
Right, but whoever's studying yeshiva is not obligated. You know that, right? Whoever's studying yeshiva is not obligated. Okay, anyway, it's a discussion, right? But the point is like this, that the Torah is more important than everything else. It's more important than the army. It's more important than anything else. You know why? Because when the people are learning Torah, they don't need no army. They don't need no nothing. Hashem guards them. That's all they need. They don't need nothing else. But
there are so many religious soldiers.
That's also true. But anyway, right, getting back to our discussion, as we said, right, we have also the avodah. So the avodah is the prayers now in our times. A person has to make sure that he prays and he reads the proper things. And then we have gimilut chasadim, right? What does that mean? Doing chesed for another. You give somebody a ride to the shul, take him somewhere. He needs to go to the hospital. He needs to go to buy some medicine, Chesed. We're doing chesed for each other, which includes, by the way, tzedakah also. Giving tzedakah is also chesed, or just doing favors for people, for your fellow Jew. That's a madigakatos, madigaukatos, damadlianos. Tavis is damadlianos. They're both of them, right? That's the way it is. So gemilut chasadim is also one of the foundations of the world, that we do chesed for each other. It's a mediwas, we're like brothers. So because we're like brothers, we do chesed for each other. HaKadosh Baruch Hu also helps us. You know what it says, right? This is what it says. The
These
Midrash.
brothers, they come out with signs.
Yeah.
You know what signs? They are coming against Israel and
Right.
Palestine, they give it the support. So
This is the problem. That's what we discussed in the beginning. That we discussed that we shouldn't have factions. We should have one leadership, not factions. Everybody's going to a different way, different methodology. We have to be united to receive the Torah. We have to be am echad, one nation. Not fight with each other, This one fights with this one fights with this one.
You're
This is not good.
Not answering my question.
Yeah.
Exactly the Hasidic who was saying only Torah and everything, they are supporting the Iran and supporting all this against Israel.
Not all of them. It's a small minority of people. They're not all of them are doing that. Small minority,
That's crazy.
Small group of people. They're a little bit crazy.
Now you cannot blame other side, which is they said.
But the truth is,
Hasidim and what they are doing against Israel.
yeah. Well, that's all. What about the people who are going against the Torah and saying you shouldn't learn Torah? They're good. Those people are good. So the same thing, Everybody's got their problems, but there should be one leadership. We have to listen to that Torah. We have to listen to the Chachamim, to the Gedolei Israel. Whatever they say, we should do. That's the way it is, right? Don't make up your own religion. Don't make up your own, hashkafa, your own philosophy. Listen to the Chachamim. Whatever they tell you, that's what you should do. They're the leaders of Am Yisrael.
That's true.
Yeah, that's what it is, That Torah, we have to listen to the Chachamim. The Gedolei Israel. You have to listen to them. That's what they're for. The Lord Baruch Hu sent them. They should guide us in the proper way, proper approach. So a person goes, it says in the Midrash, I'll tell you something. It says in the Midrash that whoever goes according to this Kenim, the Chachamim, the elders, the wise Chachamim, he never goes wrong in his life. He never makes a mistake in his life. Everything he does is good. Because they had Chokhmah, the older ones, the older rabbis who were learning for a long time. They're studying for 30, 40, 50 years already Torah. They have a lot of Chokhmah, So if you listen to them, this Kenim, everything you do is going to succeed. It's going to be blessed. So that's what you got to do. Listen to the Chachamim. Don't listen to some Am Aretz, Gamoida, something doing some things. Doesn't matter if he's religious or not religious. There's Am Aretz who's religious. There's also Am Aretz who's not religious. Same thing, Am Aretz. You know what I mean? Doesn't make any difference. He has to have that Torah. That's the whole idea. Anyway, as we said, right, Gemilut Chasadim. So it's very important that we have to do chesed for each other. We have to do kindness for each other, And don't refrain from that because you're holding up the world. This is one of the legs, foundations of the world. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen, amen. Yeah, what do you say? Sorry.
So if you're doing tzedakah or you're helping out the fellow Jews in mitzvah, what happens if a boy who's less fortunate than you help them out? Is it also?
We're not allowed to give tzedakah to a goy unless you're giving it to the public. Everybody's collecting it, and then if you wouldn't give them, it would look like you're being prejudiced. But if it's not like that, you shouldn't give tzedakah to a goy. Because the money of the Jew is sanctified, we're holy, and our money is also holy because of that. If you're giving it to a goy, you're transferring it from holiness to tumah, to impurity, So that's not you're making the money go down. So that's the reason why we're not supposed to. But if you're giving to everybody, handing out, something to everybody publicly, you got to give them too because otherwise it looks like it's like discrimination. That's what it looks like.
They give us the money.
give צדקה לבני עירך ואחר כך לחוץ לעיר.
רבי חנניה בן גרשון, לצורך שמות ישראל, ותהי חכיר בא להם תורו מצוות, שנאמר אדוני חפץ, למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידין.
אמן, אמן. ויש מרב
וכפר אבינו מחבר צרה לנו כל עם ישראל